Hello, beautiful souls. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. Welcome to my podcast, Misunderstood, Guiding Highly Sensitive People Through an Emotional Dark Age. I'm your host, Candice Vandal, and I'm honored to embark on this transformative journey with you. Have you ever felt like you didn't quite fit into the world around you or even your own family? Like your sensitivity was a burden rather than a gift? If so, you're not alone. And here's the truth. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a superpower. It's what allows you to feel deeply, to connect with others on a profound level, and to access a higher realm of consciousness. And on this podcast, we're going to explore how to harness that power and use it to create a life of purpose, passion, and true confidence. Here, in this sacred space, we honor your sensitivity as the gift it truly is. Get ready to embark on the journey of unapologetic emotional honesty and next-level healing. Let's dive in together. Hey everybody, welcome back to Misunderstood, Guiding Highly Sensitive People Through an Emotional Dark Age. I am your host, Candice Vandal. I'm holding this thing today because I feel like I need to be a little further away. I don't know. We're going to play with this and see what happens. So I want to talk about this topic today that's been coming up a lot in my Skilled Empath course that I have. It's a 2-hour deep dive with me, back to back. First hour, we dive into your patterns, your inner child wounds, your patterns that don't work for you, and we see how it actually mimics your career and how a lot of you are coming into entrepreneurship. You're wanting to start your own thing. You're moving out of what I will call corporate codependency. This is a term I came up with when I listened to countless CEOs and presidents and vice presidents and people in business and people who are high up but still listen to someone else. It's a whole thing. And as you start to heal your inner wounds, you start to move out of any and all form of codependency. So what that looks like is how we do one thing, we do all things. If this is happening in your relationships and in your personal life, it's going to be happening in your business life, because oftentimes what a lot of people start to figure out is the dynamic and the role you had in your family you're going to have in your company. Or you're going to go so far against it to be the opposite, which is also just another form of expressing trauma. Trauma expresses itself in opposites. So like if you were bullied, now you're going to be the CEO. Or if you were bullied, you're still bullied in your work. Either one is true. And so a couple big points that I want to bring up with corporate codependency, because this has been coming up a lot. When I'm teaching emotional intelligence to a corporation or a business owner or someone who's working for a company, it's always the same. It's always the same, right? Same, but different. So a couple of the things that came up for me, I'm just moving my pages around because I took little notes, is this validation that we're all seeking. People will say, oh, I love what I do for a living. I'm this, I'm that. And what I see oftentimes is this, if this is you, look into it. If it's not, ignore it. But what I see a lot is you're still getting validated by the people that you know how to please. My boss, this is your conscious collective energy that you're in now. This is your culture. This is your work. This is your career. This is your job. This is your company. This is your business. This is your boss. So like all those things you're still in search of that validation from that kind of false idol that you do idolize because they're giving you your paycheck. Think about this. And it's that need to please. And one of my clients said to me, Candice, it's so interesting. Like she was let go from her job. And at the same time, things were shifting in her family, because this is what happens. And she's like, I feel kind of lost because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not being guided. I'm not being given direction. And what I told her is, it's time for you to stop getting direction from the corporation and start getting direction from God. That's when we become empowered entrepreneurs and we can start our own business, is when we've really started to melt those roles that you felt so safe in. Ask yourself why it was so safe. Also ask yourself what I was putting up with, what I was compromising in my own power because I'm afraid of my shine, or I don't know how to be self-guided, or I don't know a right direction unless I'm told. Really think about this. Corporate codependency. What am I still not facing in what I could be depending on undependable people or false idols? That if I do face that, I'll be able to have more of an insight as to what I really want to be doing. or how I really need to have more boundaries. Even if you are staying in this corporation and staying in this job, but you're feeling like something's off in the power dynamic, you're feeling anger because anger is the cover emotion for powerlessness. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to do? Because I might risk my income, I might risk my position, I might risk my role, I might risk my job. What am I afraid to do that would really give me more integrity and more empowerment because I'm worried about the survival aspect? When we talk about false idols are anything you give your power to that isn't frickin' God. Status, money, bosses, boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, sisters, brothers, friendships, looks, anything that society has deemed good or acceptable. If it's not naturally you, you're giving your power away to be it, to fit a status, to fit a measure, right? And you can all look at me and be like, well, you kind of look like, the quintessential, this or that. People have always said to me over years, not now, because I'm way too vocal about my truth, my wounds and shit, but over the past years, like before I had more of a following, people would look at me and be like, what are you going to talk about as far as childhood wounds? It was easy for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I look a certain way, or because I have certain friends, or because I have a certain career, because I was a model at the time, an actress at the time. I'm like, it was not easy for me. In fact, growing up, I felt so different, so much like I didn't belong to my own fucking family. Sorry for that bomb. That my only way of coping was to fit into the societal norm because I naturally looked a certain way. I naturally was a certain way, but I didn't think right as far as society. I was given that label of ADHD at age 7. You have to realize that is very shameful. I had to deal with a lot of shame identity of like, is there something wrong with me? Literally my whole life. So the fact that I fit in a lot of times societally was amazing. But what you don't realize is that was my external. That was my personality. It wasn't the way that I thought. I had to do so much work and validating my own mind. One of the things I was thinking about recently is I started becoming a big fan of Call Her Daddy podcast. I had never seen it before. And then I saw it and I was obsessed. And what I loved is I listened to Alex Cooper's interview with, who was it? Now I have to think about who the hell this interview, because I watched so many. I'll think about it and I'll mention it later. But I watched her interview with said person that I will mention when I remember which one it was. And now I have to Google it. And she was talking about how everyone kind of thought the same thing of her. You're so confident. You're so this, you're so that. It must have been easy for you. And she's like, I was bullied, dude. I had acne and I was way too skinny and I was bullied. And she said her way of coping, talk about corporate codependency into boss. Her way of coping was to go downstairs in the basement and make content. It was to work on her inner world, because we all think there's something wrong with me, then I have to like prove to the outer world, and that never works. So we go back to our inner world. And what I realized, and now by the way, that has made her so successful, this creating content coping mechanism. And I see the same similar thing for what I did is I spent a lot of time alone in my inner world, diving inside to figure myself out, to figure out the world, to figure out things that I was being misunderstood about. I needed to learn to understand them so I could help other people understand me, so I didn't have to feel alone, so I didn't have to feel disconnected from, so I could feel part of things, some part of something. And really finding my place in the world was sharing my insight that I probably very largely gained from spending so much time alone. And when you have deep insight about things, you realize I can't work for anyone because I have so many of my specific own ideas. I just need to live those ideas. And so when I look at Alex Cooper and her example of really being her own boss came from her coping mechanism of not feeling enough. And in a way, same. And so I think a lot of times, those of us who've been through a lot of pain early on in life, we ultimately, when we do a lot of healing work, we realize we have our own thing. Everybody has their own thing. But when we're, let's say, stuck in a corporate ladder, maybe you haven't empowered your own thing enough yet, right? Maybe your voice isn't strong enough yet. And that's why you feel that frustration, that anger, that disempowerment, that, outsourced power. And maybe it's really about looking within a little bit more and saying, if I don't want to work like this, if I don't want to have these boundaries that don't feel right for me, if I don't want to be in this job with people that make me feel bad about myself, and I'm not talking to the people who are happy in their jobs. I'm talking about the people who feel codependent in their culture, right? In their work environment, in their corporate environment. Really looking at, what did I do to cope with pain? What do I still do? How can I empower my pain to be my purpose, or to purposely lead me to a stronger position in this current reality, right? So breaking any type of work related codependency means truly coming into embodiment of who you truly are and living in alignment with those boundaries, with those feelings, instead of constantly letting them go and compromising them to please some narrative that doesn't feel real and right for you. And a lot of you are going to comment and be like, well, I can't leave my job. I need money. And I'll say, you don't have to leave it, but empower yourself while you're in it. One of my clients, I was like, don't leave your corporate job right now, but build your side gig that you're so passionate about while you're coping with this, but with a real way. You might not be able to say shit to your boss right now or change your lane, but what you can do is be more honest with yourself about it. Like, gosh, I am in such a people-pleasing position. I'm working on that right now. That is already breaking this pattern I'm talking about of codependency. Codependency is, I depend on undependable people. When you start to really listen to yourself and depend on yourself, and you become your own anchor, you can tell yourself this story of, I'm doing this now because I'm getting out of this. Instead of lying to yourself of, I'm not doing that. Yes, I am doing that. I'm people pleasing. I'm doing whatever it is for you. Tell the truth. When you tell the truth, I always say, getting real about how you feel is how you heal. It doesn't mean I'm just going to tell the truth and things are going to change. It means I'm going to tell the truth out loud, and then I'm going to start aligning my action steps with that truth instead of gaslighting myself because I think I need this, or I tell myself a story because I'm too afraid to leave this or transform this or speak up about this. It's how we relate to the issue, and how we relate to ourselves and the issue is the bigger issue. So guys, shorter little podcast today, but I wanted to put it out there because as I've been doing so many healed empath sessions with people, what is it called? The Skilled Empath. That's what it's called. I've been doing so much business foundational work with people, building your business from your new paradigm, not your old role. That is the most important thing. When you do business coaching with me, I am getting you out of your old paradigm and your old role to build something from a very empowered place. And it does take place within a 2-hour session. So if you're interested in that, check it out on my website. If you feel like this helped you in some way, please share it. Please leave comments. Please leave, testimonials, whatever you think about this. I want to hear from you guys. I also want you guys to be DMing me on Instagram ideas about new podcasts. I will have a guest on next week, so don't fret, they're coming. But I just like these little solo episodes because I just get to say what I feel, right? And you guys, so many of you guys write me and say you can relate to this. It was good timing. So I'm not going to stop doing that as well. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining me on Misunderstood. I hope you feel a little bit more understood today. I will see you guys so soon.